Welcome to our very first season of our Life on Track TV and podcast series, where we share with you how to get into the driver's seat of your own life, personally and professionally, as opposed to life driving you. I'm your host, Erin, and I'd love to get right into this by introducing my phenomenal guest here today, David Corbin. I'm going to read David's bio because I don't want to leave anything out. He's fabulous. He's known as the mentor to the mentors. This man is incredible. So David is a keynote speaker, business advisor, president of private and public corporations, inventor, mentor, and pretty good guy. David M. Corbin is referred to as Robin Williams with an MBA because of his very practical, high relevant content speeches, coupled with entertaining and sometimes side-splitting stories. A former psychotherapist with a background in healthcare, he has served as management and leadership consultant to businesses and organizations of all sizes, from Fortune 20 companies to businesses with less than $1 million, and enjoys the challenges of all. He has worked directly with the presidents of companies such as AT&T, Hallmark, Sprint, as well as the Honorable Secretary of Veterans Administration and others. So welcome, David. So excited you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Got my green tea this morning.
Ah, I love green tea. You're so good. Thank you so much for being here. So the first question that I ask every expert, every guest, is always the same. And you've been on my summits. I've hosted so many summits, and I'm fascinated by the how and the why. I'm like a 2-year-old. I'm like, how does that happen? Why did it happen? And I'd love to know like how you got into doing what you're doing and why, because I love finding out what the purpose is and sharing that with the world.
It's funny. Just yesterday, I was with some colleagues, and one of my colleagues asked me that same question. How did you get started? And I know this guy for a long time, but he's never asked me. And in contemplation of that, very quickly, I answered, it was really a God shot, honestly, very much like a Forrest Gump. I found myself in a situation where I just sort of followed the flow. I came out to California 1 million years ago. I was intending to go to medical school, and I had a scholarship happening, a PA program, blah, blah, blah. And I quickly realized that that was not going to be for me. I went up there to get my money back, really. And now I find myself selling stereos and loving it, and really, really good. I mean, I wasn't good at it. I was incredibly good at it. And then they did what they do. In many cases, they take their top salesperson and they elevate him into a point of a sales manager, a VP of sales, and they lose their best salesperson and they gain the worst VP of sales, because just because you know how to sell doesn't mean you know how to train others to do it. Well, here I am, a college kid, a former psychotherapist. I approach things fairly seriously. So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So with my own money, I bought for $7,500, which was a ton of money back then, Erin. I bought a 7 VHS series of sales training by a guy named Joel Weldon. Oh, wow. And I memorized it. So I blended my natural skills with my newly acquired skills, and I was able to teach what I'd been doing, but also teach it. And so I sort of got in it that way. And then through a series of things like pregnancy, I had to leave that environment because there was too much crazy going on. I mean, I was putting more up my nose than my finger.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I said, if I'm going to be a parent, I'm going to be serious about this. So I left that.
Good for you.
Now, what am I going to do? Well, being that I was the largest advertiser in San Diego, everybody knew me and they kind of had an idea of what we did. And so I opened a consulting business 42 years ago. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Wow. Well, you're obviously very gifted at it. Consulting, my God, you're literally the mentor to the mentors. I mean, let me name drop just a couple. Well, you name drop just a couple, because I don't want to get it wrong. People in the personal and professional development realm, New York Times bestselling authors, that people would know like that. I just don't want to get the names wrong. So I don't want to.
It's all good. We don't have to name names, but suffice to suffice to say, I work with some remarkable people, from CEOs to luminaries in professional development. None of them needed me per se. They all would have done extraordinarily well. I added a little octane to their fuel. That's what a mentor does. And you just, I look at myself in the transportation business. I help somebody get from here to here, you know, and just add a little octane to the fuel. But the important thing to mention in that regard is this: it's never about the mentor, and it's rarely about the coach.
Mm.
It's more about creating and acknowledging and seeing the magnificence that is within that individual,
Mm.
the proverbial David within the chunk of marble,
Yeah.
from that point of view.
Yeah.
And then creating an environment and stimulating the expression of that, the actualization, the fulfillment of that. That's really what it's about. And you and I have had this conversation on my back porch of the cottage on the back of my
Which is
property,
beautiful.
where I said, never, no, let's just go into the positive. Fly on your own, and never be, quote unquote, dependent upon a mentor or a guide. Always be an independent. As the band song from years ago said, take what you need and you leave the rest, right? Take what you need
Yeah.
and move on lovingly and respectfully. But
Yeah.
fly. I see too many people holding on, latching on, and become dependent upon another. And no, the goal is independence. And I also see some coaches and mentors and chiropractors and so who facilitate that dependency. And I go,
I
no,
know.
that ain't cool.
It's
It,
not cool. It's
it,
not cool. Just like your children, you want to give them the wings so that they can fly on their own. You know?
perfectamundo. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Khalil Gibran said, "We are the bows; they are the arrows."
Yes.
But
Yeah.
you don't want to make it that you can only use our authorized arrow in our bows. Come on.
No, we don't want to do that. But what I do love about your God-given gifts is you do illuminate the negative to accentuate the positive, as the song
Yeah,
goes.
yeah.
So I would love for you to speak into this, both personally and professionally, because you do have this book out again, this new book
Look
out
at
for the Illuminate
that.
the brand, and you have Illuminate the Negative also. You have so many books, but this, I mean, all of them are fantastic. So let's talk about the significance of illuminating the
Yeah.
negative. And when I got to spend time with you and you helped me, you mentored me during a call, I took notes. I took a lot of notes, and your wisdom
Thank you.
highlighted things for me that I didn't see. I was
Hmm.
apologizing for myself constantly. I was like explaining myself to death, just because I thought maybe somebody might have misunderstood me, or, took it the wrong way. And you accentuated the negative in a short, it was an hour. I think we were on the phone on a
Hmm.
Zoom call, and you highlighted so much stuff that needed to be illuminated and just changed everything for me. So I want you to speak into how significant that is.
That is sort of my, I'd almost say, superpower,
Yeah.
and that is illuminating the negative in a positive light. Um, the Illuminate model is based upon something that I learned from one of my mentors in a book that's behind me somewhere. His name is James Baldwin, and he said, we can't solve everything we face, but we can't solve anything unless we face it. And,
Mhm.
and I thought,
Yeah.
wow, that's kind of cool. And then I took it further and I said, yeah, face it, follow it, and then fix it. So
Yes.
it begins with either self realization or the blessing of another individual saying, hey, there's an issue here you might be missing. It could be an employee saying, one of our competitors has this, or it could be someone who you're managing says, you tend to get really, angry, whatever it is. Illuminate it, bring it up, below the alignment of consciousness up into the level or the alignment of awareness. So first you illuminate it. What are you not facing? And I have people set their cell phones with an alarm every week that ask, what might I not be facing? And so
Mm.
you face it, then you follow it. Well, what's causing it? What's keeping it alive? And follow it into the future. What happens if I don't mitigate it? If I don't get rid of it or reduce its power? And then you begin the process of fixing it. That's the Illuminate model. Face it, follow it, fix it. So with a pizza company that I was engaged to be a chief illumination officer as a consultant, they had to face the fact that their profits were dwindling. And we followed it and found out that most people buy their pizza based upon whatever sale is going on, whatever's blown into their, their newspaper or whatever. And we followed it further and said, these people thought that they were in the fast food business, but we followed it and found out that 78% of Americans don't know what they're having for dinner by 4 p.m. And they're really in crisis and they're calling up, and this pizza company, I won't tell you the name of it, but it rhymes with schmamanos. And we realized that when you're calling up for crisis intervention and say, listen, I got 2 kids and my neighbor's kid and my dog and my wife's coming home and I need to feed them. What should I get? It's crisis intervention, right? What should I get? Help me. And they go like, hold, please. What do you want? No, we taught them to be crisis intervention people and say, no problem, sir. That you'll want our package B, which is 2 big round things of cardboard and ketchup on it and a big bag, a big bottle of sugar water with caffeine to keep those little bastards going. We illuminate. We faced it, followed it, and fixed it, and shifted the trajectory of the profits of that corporation. So that's illuminate. One of the things that needs to be illuminated is your brand.
Mm.
Are you living your brand? And in what situations are you living your brand or killing it? So that was preventing brand slaughter. So I wrote the book Illuminate. I wrote the book Preventing Brand Slaughter. And we're talking Wall Street Journal stuff, which is kind of cool. And then those 2 books, and they gave birth to another book called The Illuminated Brand, where we put illuminate and brand slaughter together. And the Illuminated Brand is my latest book, and I'm so proud of it because it talks about a training program that this hospital goes through, and you, the reader, learn how to do that training program. So there it is in a nutshell.
I mean, what a difference, especially during this pandemic, David, that so many businesses are just thrown back on their heels. They're in the fetal position. Like, what do I do? Restaurants, like you just mentioned, Domino's. There's so many restaurants. I mean, I'm just here on Long Island, all over the world, that are closing down, that are boarded up. And so what advice would you give business owners during this pandemic? I mean, I'm sure you have tons of it, but within the amount of time that we had, that they could just take action on.
I want to grab them, give them a hug. They think they're in the fetal position. They're really in the fecal position because they're in their own poop of thinking. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Funny. And so what I would first say, stop, breathe, stop, breathe. And that's a long story because, I invented a product that is going crazy all over the country to help people stop, breathe, particularly in hospitals. Yeah. In fact, the Illuminate book, the Illuminated Brand, it's a story about a hospital. And they hear that this pandemic may be hitting, and people are going, no, it's not even here. Why should we spend time on it? That's the antagonist. And the reader watches how the hospital wakes up and illuminates, and they start dealing with this pandemic. The book is actually about the pandemic and how you can illuminate and keep your brand going, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But here's what I would say, and here's what I do say. Number one, it's Don Miguel Ruiz's 5th agreement is believe nothing, but listen. Don't believe the news. Don't believe what other people are saying, but listen. More importantly, And Erin, you and I have talked about this because I hand out LSD, make believe LSD, and I tell people, put it on your tongue. Okay, you're going to hallucinate with me. And I want you to have a conversation with your business and make believe your business has a voice because you're tripping. You can hear the voice of your business.
Yes.
And you ask your business, what do you need from me? What do
Mm.
you need me to do? And who do you need me to be? And then you shut up your mouth because you're tripping and you listen.
Right.
And your business will tell you what you need to do.
Mm.
Just listen.
Mm.
And you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on your ability to deliver. And you get naked with yourself because that's what
Mm.
people who are tripping on acid do. But you get naked, stripped of ego,
Right.
and you rate yourself. 1 is you suck, 10 is mastery. You find out where you're 8 or 9 or 10, and like you were singing the song, accentuate the positive. But where you're 2, 3, or 4, forget the song because the song says eliminate the negative, and we say what?
Illuminate.
Illuminate it,
Yeah.
close the gaps, and the resources are there. The resources, Erin Lay's show, all these different podcasts, Google, Schmoogle, Kafloogle, all the information is there to close the gaps.
Yeah.
When the student arrives, the teacher appears in so many, and through the law of attraction, you're going to find people are going to come to you, people in situations and things are going to come to you to help you close the gaps, but you have to first identify the gaps.
Yes.
Don't whine. It's not a whining zone. When you take responsibility to close the gaps, you increase your confidence, your competence, which increases your confidence. And again, you're going up the eensy beensy spider, not up the water spout, but up the spout of prosperity,
Mm.
ability, peace of mind, equipoise, fulfillment, actualization. And then it becomes a no whine zone. Because when you do that, you cannot not win. But they'd rather go, oh, the market conditions, oh, the pandemic, oh, the this, oh, the that. And I say, shut up your mouth.
Shut up, your face.
Shut up your face. And like Cher in that movie, she smacked Nicolas Cage and she goes, wake up. And I want to say, wake up to your greatness. But you need to take responsibility. And how do you do that? LSD.
We're not advocating drugs here.
No, we're not. Just because I'm tripping right now. It's okay. No, but I do advocate for hallucination, which is another word for imagination.
Yeah.
Ask your business the question, listen to the answer, close the gaps, and enjoy. You and I have talked about this. Anything you could vividly imagine, ardently desire,
Mm.
and enthusiastically act upon
Mhm.
must inevitably come to pass. It's just
law.
that's
It's
it.
law. And so many people don't like they understand the law of gravity, like everything hits the ground, but they don't understand the law, the law of attraction, universal law, the law of reciprocity. One of my favorites. Like there's
Mm,
tons of laws, like
mm,
what we give out, returns. But you also shared with me, and I also want to get into what we spoke about regarding, mind heart coherence and the third chakra I mean, I've been studying the mind heart coherence with Dr. Joe Dispenza and Brady, and there's so many others, Greg Brady, and it's fascinating. But you took it to a whole different level when you spoke about the third eye, and I was on the phone with you, and I'm like, oh, I mean the third chakra, and I'm like, oh my, the third eye, wrong chakra, the third chakra, right? I mean, but you were talking about the throat chakra,
mm.
and it was just like one of those, oh my God, it takes everything that I understood and just it gave it a deeper meaning. It gave it an outlet, almost like a dam that's clogged, and then you have the outlet, and it was just amazing. And you also talked about the 4 quadrants with me when I was at your beautiful home with your beautiful wife, who came in and said hi. I love Anne, and And the 4 quadrants, when you tap into that. So I know we don't have a lot of time, and I want to respect your time. Can you speak about that and then get into the mind heart coherence?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So cool, David.
In fact, I woke up this morning at 3 o'clock and listened to 2 hours of Joe Dispenza's meditations just this morning.
Mm.
Yeah, just this morning. That's why I wasn't able to do anything with my hair this morning.
It's raining out today for me.
I mean, talk to that. So I like to take energy in through the crown chakra, and you always wanted to go through and bless every one of the chakras. And I've come to realize, of course, we want to have head and heart coherence, right? Head and heart coherence. Left brain analytic, blah blah blah. The heart, which study the work of heart math, it just emanates so much energy and all. And I came to realize, so I like to have the energy go back and forth. And this is the main highway. Of course, I have it go down to the root chakra, but this is the main highway. And just as yesterday, I was just driving up to my office and my manufacturer up in Los Angeles. I had to stop off at a rest stop, and boy, did I have to stop off. I couldn't wait. That rest stop is great. Well, there's a rest stop between the head and the heart. And that's the throat chakra. Not the shoat chakra, the throat chakra. Okay. And so when my head and my heart are in coherence, my words are much more powerful. My thinking and feeling turn into a double helix. And so I create almost an infinity between my head and my heart, and the intersection of that infinity is my throat chakra. And much of the work that I do is through communication. And we know that only 7% of our communication are our word, right? 7, 38, and 55. It's the words, it's the vocal intonation and the body language. But my whole communication package and deliverable is much more emphasized and powerful, fortified when I use the head and the heart combined to come through. And then, of course, coming through the root chakra and being grounded and centered and blah, blah, blah. So I remind everyone that head-heart coherence through meditation, just by being present, or something that I teach called meditation. I teach my mentoring clients that the head and the heart, make that introduction, keep them on the guest list, and invite them everywhere you go.
I love that. And it's healing. It's healing on so many levels. It's communication, absolutely, but the healing that it's capable of doing physically, emotionally, spiritually, your quadrants, physical, emotional, spiritual. What was the other one?
Intellectual.
Those 4 quadrants, healing on every level when people
keep them in balance, baby. Keep them in balance. Every morning we do a quadrinity check, and we ask our physical self, how are you feeling right now? What do you need from me? And you give it. Ask your intellectual self, what are you thinking right now? What do you need from me? And give it. Your emotional self, how are you feeling? What do you need? Give it. Then your spiritual self is not being annoyed by the screaming requests of your emotions and your body and your mind. Then your spiritual self can put her hands on the wheel and steer you to greatness. But you got to keep the Trinity in check for the spiritual self to and the spiritual self just sits there like a mama bear watching the other 3 cubs, the intellectual and the physical and the emotional, going towards a hornet's nest with a stick, and the spiritual self is like, oh boy. Yeah. So when you check in, physical self, what do you need? Well, I need hydration. Give it. Emotional self, what do you need? I need attention to my feelings today because yesterday you suppressed them. Give it. Intellectual self, what do you need? Well, we're working on that list, but I need, you hadn't, give it. And then watch magic happen. It's crazy.
A testimony to you and what you're saying and what you're teaching is when I was at your house, I was feeling odd, and I didn't know what was going on. And And when you told me about the 4 quadrants and ask yourself what you're doing, what was going on was a medical condition that could have killed me. But I slowed myself down and I was like, I think it might be, congestive heart failure, or like, get to the doctor, get to the doctor. But I mean, that's something that can kill somebody. It's like a silent killer. But I heard, okay, now listen, like a little swollen ankles, or what, like it wasn't like this big sign saying rush to the doctor. But there was a voice in my head that said, go to the cardiologist, go to the GI specialist, get to the internist. I never saw a nephrologist in my life. And I had cancer when I was 25. Like I have every specialist has, I never saw a nephrologist. And I was like, you know what? Sign up for that guy too. Sign up for that one too. And because we had that conversation and I did take the time to quiet my mind and listen, that's where I was led. And I feel fabulous. I'm doing phenomenal. All my blood work is great. My sonograms are fantastic. We're just going to get the ejection fraction back up again, which the meds are doing. So I'm on the mend and recovering, and it's phenomenal. But it was at your house when I was like, the hell is going on? I'm crying. I'm like, I don't cry. I'm not a crier. Anybody that knows me, like, I don't cry. I mean, I'll cry if it's something that's very upsetting, but not just like, why am I crying? Like, what's going on? I don't cry and not know why I'm crying. And we had that conversation, and it saved my life. So there you go, for everybody listening.
You saved your life because you became present with yourself. We're so busy doing it. We know that. We're so out of direction. My latest invention, and I was just up in LA doing videos on it. It's designed to solve a $4.38 billion problem. That's burnout and turnover of doctors and nurses. So I invented the Rejuvenation Station, which is mentioned in the Illuminated brand book. And illuminationstations.com is the website. And it's designed to get people to just stop, either in a pod or whatever, with beautiful biophilia science of awe and to nature. And they go from their crazy roles and goals, and after 4 or 5 minutes, they're in touch with their souls, the work of Mitch Axelrod's soul, role, and goal, and they're more present. We don't need a rejuvenation station to do that. But if you're on unit and you're an ED doctor during a pandemic, you're not going to just go they can't go over to a class over there on, and the hospitals offer wonderful classes on cognitive therapy and trauma release, but they don't want to leave the unit because emergencies come in. So now they could do it right on unit. And my point is, we can do that right now. You can make a commitment and say, I'm going to set my cell phone for 6 minutes. I'm just going to go sit in that chair, not to be disturbed, and just breathe in the present. But we don't. And you're right. We're so busy loving, giving, and serving others, especially the feminine energy in men and the feminine energy which dominate and rule women, which is giving, loving, and serving. And we're so busy giving and we don't take care of ourselves. And I say there's nothing noble about a sick servant.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I second that. You're absolutely right. How is anybody going to serve? How is anybody going to show up as 100% the best version of you if you're not taking care of you? Nobody deserves half of you. So
the women that I mentor hide behind that as an excuse to not self-care. Oh, I'm too busy. I'm too this, I'm that. You know what? And I illuminate. I go, what are you afraid of? What are you avoiding? And then we peel back the layer and we see there are actually things that they're not illuminating, and they're afraid to sit and be present with self.
Yeah.
And we illuminate that. We find patterns of their belief system. Hey, you're only a woman anyway. I mean, some crazy ass stuff. And same and men are immune to these ridiculous precognitive patterns, which need to be identified and sourced and attributed and then replaced and nourished and stuff. So the mentoring that I do, I used to be a psychotherapist, and now I'm just a psycho. And
Love
the
it.
mentoring really pulls back the layers
Mm.
because it's easy to teach somebody marketing and sales and branding and come on. But when you have and you and I've talked, when you have a bungee cord attached to your right butt cheek, pulling you back to these old beliefs, you're constantly stressing and straining towards what you want, but you've got these things pulling you back. You're firing off missiles of desires, but you're also firing off missile of resistance.
Yeah.
And it's like, cut it out. Illuminate the source of it, get rid of it, and go flying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. I could talk to you all day, David, and I want to respect your time. And I know you have a free gift for the audience. For everybody watching, I could talk to you. I have so many other things I want to talk about with you. I'm like visualization, like all this kind of stuff. But I want people to get in touch with you so that they can hear from you as well. So much more that you could share with people. But let's share with them the free gift that you have for the audience.
Free gift is every piece of jewelry that Erin owns
Time out.
to your house, and
Time out.
we hope it all fits. No, what I'll do is I'll give one of my books away, an ebook. I'll give Psyched on Service. Psyched on Service. It's the inner game. We call it the marketing. Actually, 20 years ago, the precursor to brand slaughter. But in any event, if you text or when you text, as though the number you're texting to is 55678, make believe that's the phone number you're texting to, and the message you want to send is DMC2, David Mark Corbin 2, DMC2. You'll get that, and you'll get a workbook that I still don't remember if it's a workbook I did when I was consulting with Calvin Klein or the government. But anyway, you're going to get a workbook too, which is kind of cool. So there's that. And then if anybody wants to reach out, you can send me an email, and I promise I will answer the email. I can't promise I'll do it the same day, but I answer every single email. And that's just david@davidcorbin.com, david@davidcorbin.com.
I love it. I love it, David. I love you. Thank you so much for being here with us today. You truly are amazing. You're a gift and a massive asset to this Life on Track TV series. You're one of the first 10. It's just launching now, and I'm so excited about this. So excited about this show. So everybody listening, you'll be able to see this episode through all the online streaming TV shows, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Roku, like all of that. And the podcast is just Spotify. So excited. So excited. And you'll see it on my social media channels and lifeontrack.tv. So thank you again, David. And stay tuned, everybody, each Monday as my guests and I bring you more information and insight on how you can live your life on track, personally and professionally. Have a magnificent day, everyone. And always remember to live onward and upward. Love you.
Boom, onward and upward.
Onward and upward, baby.